Everybody, very nice to see so many of you here, and I hope you'll enjoy what we'll tell you about the terrible knitters of Dent. But by the way, we don't speak a specific dialect. We just speak what we were brought up with. It's sort of a mixture, I think, of it's not really Yorkshire or Cumbria or anything, but it's just what we've been brought up with in Dent. And so I hope you don't think that's okay.
Oh, no, it'll soon start to happen.
Yes. Now, to do the Dent knitting, you need to have a strong leather belt, or the top of the tight skirt will do equally well. And then you use a knitting stick. Now, and you all know we're called the terrible knitters of Dent. Well, lots of people ask us, well, I don't know whether you look terrible or not. But it wasn't that they were dreadful people. It was that they did a lot of knitting, and more than any of the other Dales round about. So they were really great knitters. And we say it's a terrible fine day, or a terrible wet day, and that sort of thing. Well, they were terrible knitters. And also, we're often asked, how do you knit with these pieces of wood? Well, you don't knit with them. You simply have a hole in the top to hold the forced needle. For the Dent knitting, you always have 4 curved needles. And you see, this goes into your, and there's a ledge there that stops it slipping down through the belt. This, by the way, is one my grandfather, William Oversby, made. He used to make the knitting sticks for lots of people around. And then you see, you put your one needle that you're knitting with into the knitting stick, and then you knit round and round. And they used to be very, very quick at doing the knitting, much quicker than we are. And everybody knitted. The men, women, boys and girls. I can remember my aunt saying she couldn't go out to play until she knitted the sleeve of the jersey.
Now these terrible knitters, can you hear me? These terrible
Can you hear them back?
Yes, yes. Oh. Never looked at the knitting that we have to do, and of course nobody can do this striking the loop or swathing the day that we do remember if they joke. Now, the walls at my garb is from Deepdale. We both hail from Deepdale. I hail from Deepdale then. And this is an old costume, belonged to an old lady when I was young. And there's the onion dye shawl, I think, that belonged to my grandmother. And then this beautiful apron that they would perhaps only wear on a Sunday. They wouldn't wear an apron like this for every day. And then it goes somewhere knitting, and this lady said she'd been all over the world, and everybody had a kind of a leather bag, and it was always stitched round with red wool. Now, I just happened to be looking at the picture this morning of a terrible knitter sitting in a chair, and I saw she had the bag on the floor beside her, but usually they carried it home from the bed.
Yes, now I've got on my original clothes made in Dent. I like them when there's no carpets and you can make noise. Yes, this is a very old shawl, and the apron I'm wearing will be 100 years old, and so will the cap. The lace around the cap was knitted by my mother. And there is some clogs here. These are pot ones, the models of my clogs. So you can have a look at those afterwards.
This bonnet is a very old one, and the the runners were ones for the hayfield, it's shaded your neck and your face.
Yes, and the Dent knitters used to use bump, what they call bump for knitting. It was sort of a khaki coloured wool, thick, and it was oily and not very good to handle, but it was water repellent. And they knitted a lot of sea boot stockings, and quite a lot of those went out to Russia, which would seem a very long way in those days. And they did knitting of hats and waistcoats and one thing or another, and Dent was famous for these beautiful gloves. And this one has Angela in Fair Isle around the wrist, and there's a pattern on the back, and all the hand part, it's all 1 and 1, Fair Isle. And they knitted these for a shilling a pair. And the wool is 1 ply. And we were demonstrating at one place, and I said, well, I don't know how they managed to get any needles small enough, fine enough to knit these. And they said, oh, we know. They used to use the old hatkins, you know, the long hatkins people used to wear. Well, I suppose they took the knob off and used the sharp ends, and that's how they knitted them. And in those days, when they barely could afford to have a candle, a light, it's really a wonderful achievement. It's very precious, is that glove. It's on permanent loan to us. It's been all over the place with it.
Well, most of this dale, as Deepdale is, are surrounded by hills, and Deepdale produced their own wool. They used cardies and spinning. And then they got so clever at knitting that they had to go further afield for the wool, so they had to go into the other dales like Dowhill and below Dent. And then there was a carrier went to Kendal every Saturday. That's in my lifetime. And they would take the knitting gardens to Kendal and bring the wool back. And it would be sometimes collected at a certain point, and sometimes it would be delivered. And, they didn't always, these here Danish people were very poor. They couldn't always afford a belt. Now I have a belt of a horse's head colour. Now, you know longitude, or sometimes very much. And if they couldn't afford a belt, well, they would get a lot of straw and twist it round and round, and that would serve as a belt. And then if they hadn't a stick, well, they would get about 50 goose quills together and tie them very, very tight, put them in the straw, and then they would put the needle into the... Now, this knitting stick belonged to my auntie, Elizabeth Webb, and it's a Wensleydale one. And it has a goose wing design on it. That's Wensleydale one, when she did it from Wensleydale, and originally they were lovers' tokens. If a couple got engaged, the young man made them a knitting stick, and as to how much they thought about them, they designed it. So I concluded my aunt must have been thought a lot of, because it's very nicely decorated in every way, and it also has her initials on. And I understand that they used any kind of wool. It didn't matter, oak, boxwood, any kind of wood they used, didn't they?
Yes. Well, I have a very beautiful little stick here. One made, another one made by my grandfather, William Oversmith, and it's made of pear wood, and it's beautifully polished, and it's inlaid round the top with bone, brass, and Spanish mahogany. And that's the sort of thing that they used in the afternoon when they were a little bit changed and dressed up. And they used the plain ones like this one in the mornings. And this particular knitting stick was sent to me only a year or two ago from Middlesbrough. See, this particular lady had been evacuated during the war to Dent. And the lady she stayed with was a terrible knitter. So she gave her this knitting stick. And then she thought it had better be sent back to Dent, so she sent it to me. And this one, if you can look at all these things afterwards, you'll see that it has a split ring at the top. I think that was to accommodate different thicknesses of needles, because they used all thicknesses. And I have seen some knitting needles made of whalebone with a natural curve. Oh, we have two knitting sticks here. These are not old ones, but they're exact models of the Appleby knitting sticks. Mr. Wappett of Appleby, he saw in the Dalesman, I think it was 1976, an article about us, and he was so pleased with keeping the old craft going that he made us a knitting stick each with our initials on. But he wasn't satisfied with that. When he came to the Queen's Jubilee, he sent us another one with a crown on it. And I did go to Appleby to see him, and he was making Welsh loving spoons, and he was doing them with a penknife. So I presume that's how he did these. They're very nicely done.
Now this knitting stick belonged to the Dovers. Now the Dovers had mills at Sedbergh, and they did build, I think it was 5 houses at the Row, the 3-story sides, the work people. Now, they lived in Keswick, and then they moved to the mill at Eggleswaite Hall, and then they moved to Sedbergh. But I don't think there's any Dover's mills working today anyway. They used to make linings for cart saddles, and for riding saddles, and neck collars. And they also bought quite a lot of land round Garsdale there. Now, when they had any land in Dent, I really don't know. But the tenants sometimes paid the rent with the wool cloth. I thought, well, it was a very good idea because they probably wouldn't have the ready money, but that's the Dover family. Now, this is a pair of old Dent needles that belonged to one of my aunts, and they're glass. They're very precious. There may be other ones around, but I haven't seen any. Probably no. And I also had an old aunt that she says that she died about when she was 90, a few years in, and she went to Cowden School, and she said they used to have a lesson perhaps once a week, about half an hour, for knitting and sewing. And she learned to knit, and this is a piece, you can see it after, from 10 stone flower bags. They round this cotton. I think some of you will remember 10 stone flower bags. And there she learned to knit. And she was only very, very young, and she started with garters. She said they were very, very narrow and very, very long because they wrapped them round and round the legs. Now, can you hear what we say? Yes. All you, if you can.
No, well, I was taught to knit by my grandmother when I was 3 years old. And I've been knitting off and on ever since. Not only do this for demonstration, but I've been knitting off and on, all kinds of knitting ever since. It's nothing like learning early, is there? And here's a sock. I'm knitting a sock, and that's one when it's complete. And it's done in Aran wool. It's as near as we can get to the old bug.
Now, a lady in detail told me one day, she passed on, that her grandmother could knit 3 pairs of these stockings a week. The leg was 36 inches and the foot was 12 inches, along with the other work, and then she could knit ganses and such like. Now, I've knit these, and they're too heavy and thick for Wellingtons, I think, but she said she used to knit them. then at Dent there was all these knitting galleries, but there's none today. And they were high up the stores, they got all the light, but they only had a candle in those days, and there were hives of activity, and people chatting, and then they used to have what we would call sitting nights, Gamina sitting. It's all gone off, I think, because Gamina sitting day. And they all congregated together in one house to say fire and that. And then they used to sing songs and tell stories. And then if they got a bit low, well, they would just turn up the feet and make it flow. But in those days, I don't think they would ever drop a loop or anything. It would be too clever at the job for that.
And they used to sing knitting songs, and the whole idea of all the knitting and the songs was to do it quicker. They must keep going faster and faster. And we have a little song we sing called Bellwether Barking. It cries bar, bar, bar. How many sheep have we lost today? 19 have we lost in Yannet we called Run, Rocky, Run, Rocky, Run, Run, Run. Well, while they sang that, then they went down till they got down to 120. And they lost none. And that gave you 20 rows. And they were supposed to get round while they were singing the verse. But you'll see how much we can do while we're singing. Nothing like that. Oh, yeah. Bellwether barking cries, ba, ba, ba. How many sheep have you lost today? 19 have we lost, and young have we won. Run, Rocky, run, Rocky, run, run, run. Run, Rocky, run, Rocky, run, run, run. Bellwether barking cries, ba, ba, ba. How many sheep have we lost today? 18 have we lost, and 2 have we won. Run, Rocky, run, Rocky, run, run, run. So you see how quickly they did 20 rows.
Bellwether is the leader of the sheep, and Barking is a hill just on into Barford, and Rock is the sheepdog.
We have lived this, you know, we never practice. We always say the same things in the end, but it isn't the same. It's always the same at different times.
Well, we're not perfect. Shall we sing what's that new song now?
Oh, there's the county.
Oh,
Yeah. Now you all know how to count like this. Do you? You all know how to count. So would you like to do it? Yeah. 10, 11, 11, oh, you're a very good audience. Yes, I think it's a very laborious way of counting. Don't know how they managed to count the sheep like that, because they're not easy to count on. And they did it for the rows. And we have a little song that starts with Young Tam Tether. Yes. Young Tam Tether, another song begun. Young Tam Tether, lovely work is never done. There's cows to milk and birds to feed, and plenty more beside. For young Tam Tether, every morn till eventide.
years since Betty and I have been, you do remember this lady, Mrs. Crabtree and Miss Stevenson. And when they were young, you had to knit so much straps, the part of the sock, a part of the glove, before you could go out to play. And one day, these two ladies, they were children, and one of them was a quick knitter, and the other was a slow one. And she couldn't go out to play, but the quick knitter could. And so the father said to her, now, says my lass, I'll finish the knitting and they go out to play. And I've often thought it was a very kind thing of the father to say that.
I am told that my grandfather, when he used to go up to Dent station to collect coal with a horse and cart, used to sit on the front of the cart and knit all the way. Because they didn't waste any moments at all. And that's one reason why the needles are curved. Because they can hang like that. You say you could wash up and you could still be there, ready to start. Or you could dust. They made it so they didn't waste a moment. So, there we are.
Time's precious. What else have we? Oh, yes, right.
Now,
now we're going to sing a song, Tarry Woo. Tarry Woo is the
you all know what Tarry Woo is, do you? Tarry Woo, you do? No. Yeah, well, it's the wool of the sheep. You know, when they used to sew and tar them, the wool was very messy. And so this is about the Tarry Woo and the shepherds and whatnot.
She wants this.
Oh, you said it. Yes. So, Tarry Woo, oh Tarry Woo, Tarry Woo is ill to spin. Cardiff wheel, oh Cardiff wheel, Cardiff wheel, and ye begin. When this Cardiff wool is spun, then your work is nearly done. When it's rolled and dressed and clean, it will be clad for a queen. Sing ye bonny harmless sheep that feed upon the mountain steep, bleating sweetly as ye go through the winter's frost and snow. Heart and hand in a plough gear, not so half so useful are. Three kings to win that odds the plough, are all obliged to Tarry Woo. Up ye shepherds dance and skip, all the hills and valleys strip. Sing the praise of Tarry Woo, and of the flock that bears it too. Harmless creatures without blame, they clothe the black and cram the wane. Keep us warm and hearted too, wheels on us our Tarry Woo. How happy is the shepherd's life, fair from wants and free of strife, while the gimlers bleat and bay, and the lambkins answer play. No music to the ear, of thief or fox ye have no fear. Sturdy Kent and wholly true, we'll defend the Tarry Woo. His content and envy's none, not even among upon his throne. Though he the royal sceptre swayeth, has not sweeter holy days. Who'd be a king can only tell, when the shepherd sings so well and pays his due with honest heart and Tarry Woo. Now, Miss Middleton has a direct poem about the knitting, which she'll give you now.
Terrible knitters of Dent. My father said when I could count, Yan, Chan, Tether, Menner, Pin, a line pierced stick, it chipped for me, to tap to skill and learn to knit. Now I can count and see me dad, has carved for me the bonny stick, J.M. for name and 6 for age, chip patterns like Jack Frost on page. Me mother gave me a strand blue bland, me father made me me script, a clew above me grandma wound, I need no else, to knit at school. I's played na meer with English jokes. Near laking now, but knit, knit, knit. I's knit myself 10 pair of socks, a bright red cap or softish wool. For brother Matt and sister Di, footings, leggings and socks I knit. When I've grown up like mother mine, I knit sea boots on gansy blade. Me grand's a terrible knitter I vow. She throws her loops like leaping black. Say slash she knit like Zen, yet now her pricks get over hot to hot. Me Johns or Matts or Dickle here has asked me dad for me to wed. Said he, I's glad, and say me John made me a bonny loving stick. Icar JR, the day, me heart is out for Baines diamonds. Near bonniest stick or Dent do, near Spranger, straight a lad na man. By taller deep and peat fire, at money cities have we sway. We never learn to midnight hour, our pricks be tied to licking sound. 15 brown lads and lasses had we, and all done well for us. With thankful heart, I'm telling you, for they've been good to all of us. And now, but blind, I cannot live. Me John and Dad have doing long since. I love me Dad's nigh lass's stick, and Johnny's bonny loving stick. With them, I surely there will part. For part of Dad's I yard lie stick, and part of John's near other yard. There's part of me near tears a bit.
Yes. Now, I think we've got to the stage of the story about, you all know about the two little girls that came to Dent from Langwell. They came in the 1970s. And they came to Dent to learn
18.
18, yes, 1870. In the 1760s. It's the wrong one. Yes, yes, it's the 1760s. And this was from Sully's novel, The Doctor. And it was he that said about the terrible knitters of Dent. And we'll read it from a printed copy. But I've got one here that is handwritten in dialect, which is extremely difficult to read. But it was 1894 when it was copied out for Angela Shuttleworth of Barton Manor. And this glove was lent to us by one of their descendants. And this has Angela round the wrist. Yes. Now, Reedy Wolf and I are going to read the story. And it is true. We've been going around demonstrating. I've been saying to people, this is a true story. Well, not long ago, Elizabeth Middleton and I went to Langwell, to the WI there. And I asked them in advance, would they research this and just confirm that it is true? And they did do it, and they said that they came from Little Langwell. They were called Betty and Sally Udall. And the story is told by the elder of the two, Betty Udall. Now, it was about 56 years ago in June, when a woman called for Dent to sing in Nether hours in Langwell. The terrible knitters in Dent. So my father and mother sent me and my little sister Sally back here to learn to knit. I was between 7 and 8 years old, and Sally 2 years younger. And woman reared a horse, with Sally a cover, and me on another with a man walking beside me, where sometimes he got up and reared. In them days folk didn't gang up in carts, but carts at best. I'd rather ride a young of them than on a carriage. How I used to think, if I were a lady at home, I'd tear around the roads in a chase. But when I've ridden in a chase, I hate motion, wasting around. The trees fleeing by on your side and walls fleeing by up to the hill, I was as sick as a pit.
Well, we didn't like Dent at all. And not that they were bad to us, but the way living, what it were round the mill, and they started it frying pan, and then kayaks, as thick as me finger. Then we was stored with some itch knitting. We went to school about a mile off, and there was a master, I and a mistress and all. They learned us our lessons, me on a piece, and then went to knit as hard as we could dry, striving which of us could knit hardest, and again another. Where there were derricks set at work every hour each morning, and if we didn't get them done, well, we couldn't gang for our dinners. There all max of contrivances to learn us to knit swift. Master would win 3 or 4 close together for 3 or 4 bands to knit off. Then at its last rattled to his yarn, and then I should get a good thump. And there were both lads and lasses as learned to knit. We used to sing a mack of a song when we got to the end of every needle. Quite named the folk as lived it dear. But Sally and me, well, we never caught Dent folk. We caught Blanca folk. Song was
Sally and I, for a good pudding pie, tear wheat and to the rough rye. Sally and I, for a good pudding pie. We sang this all St. Names at every meal, and when we come to the end, we cried off and began again, and Sarah was straight all day through. We were stored, as I tell you. What pleasure we had was when we went out to build fire, for an ever it was baking. At Christmas Day there was muskets, and on Christmas Day morning they gave us some red stuff for our breakfast. I think it would have been called chocolate. But we didn't like it at all. It always poisoned us. And we cared for no but how we were to get back to London. Night and day there was no but this knitting. And neighbours used to go from house to house with a work. Then young fired in, and you know they could have a messenger. They had good long black plates, and they set them up in a round with a hole at the top, and folks sat round it. And when any of them dropped a stitch in their work, they shouted, "To the plate," and Garrett sat near his plate fire, to and young, and it made a low, and then they could see to pick up the stitches. They never had any candle. They couldn't afford one. And with that, of course, worsted stockings, some gloves, some nightcaps, some waistcoat breasts and petticoats. I yams not a stocking for me Sally 6 hours, and Sally yammy 7. And woman's daughter was all in the rose, it took her 8 hours. And they sent a note to our folk in Landlow to tell them how well we were getting on with knitting.
Sally and me, when we were ourselves, we were always contriving how we could get away. When we slept by ourselves, we talked to naught else. But when woman's daughter slept with us, well, we were quiet. Something or other always happened to hinder us till your day between Christmas and Christmas, when woman's daughter stopped at young with 2 calves. House was 4 miles on the other side of Dent town. Well, afterward past school, waxed way to Kendal. It had been a hard frost, and there was snarl grun, but it was beginning to thaw. It was very slushy and cold, but we ported on, leaving our live footed winters. We had our clogs on, for we hadn't changed them for our shoes for fear of being fun out. And we went out on with our hats, and bits of blue bedgowns and brads. And you may know we couldn't be very hot. I had sixpence in my pocket, that were 3 shillings more in our box, as our folk had given us, to keep in the pocket, see as we'd never be out. But Lyle mufflings as we thought, well, it would be missed, and we'd hardly take any more.
When we got to Sever, we fell hungry. And there was a good fine red house, not far from the road. Well, we went to bed for a bit of bread, but the one give us out. So we tramped on and we come to a Lyle thatched house. And I said, Sally, they going back this time, there's less than me, and I can do take pity on them. And they did. And they gave us a good shive of bread. And at last we got to Scotch Gins as the Court Public House about 3 miles from Seven. A Scotchwoman kept it. It was just about dark, so we asked her to let us stop at night. And she took us in, gave us some boiled milk and bread, and soon put us to bed. And we told her our tale, and she said we're doing right to run away.
Next morning, she gave us some mere milk and bread, and we give her our sixpence. And then we went off, sliding away amongst snow. Oh, that cold moor, you can it well enough. Nearly starved to death we were, I and Mezzles. So we got on very slowly, as you may know. At rain, it had turned, and we begged at another island, thatched house on Fell. There was a woman and a heap of raggedly barns standing round the table, and she gave us a few of the polish, and she put a bit of sugar into a soup, a cold tea, and put that in and all.
Then we trailed on again till we come to Piet Lane 2 yet. They took us in there and let us warm ourselves and dry our clothes. And they gave us a bit of bread. They said we'd done right to come away, for Dent was poorest spotted world. And we were scarce to be hungry. And at last we got to Kendal when it was near dark. And we went up straight and met a woman, and we asked way to Tom Post's. That was fella that used to bring letters from Kendal to Amundsen and Oakshead once a week. And we had our waiting at their house when we went into Kendal. And she told us way, and we creaked on, but we looked back 2 or 3 times, and she was still standing there looking at us. Then she come up and quizzed us a deal, and said that we should come here with her. We told her where we'd come from, and about all terrible tramp we'd had.
She took us to her house. It was a very poor one, down beside the bridge that just come out into the town. There was near fire on, but she went out and brought in some eating, for they can buy a pennyworth of St. Cool's appears at any time there. And she set on a good fire and put on the kettle, then laid up some of her own clears and turned them on us as well as she could, and dried ours, for they were as wet as thatch. It had rained all the way. Then she made us some tea, and as she ended the bed for us in her own house, she took us to her neighbour's. And there was an old woman in a bed near us that flayed us sadly. But she took a fit at night. Face turned black as coal, and we lay trembling and hushed ourselves our lady bed. Folk come and stood round her, and we heard them say as we were asleep. So we made as if we were asleep, because we thought, well, if we're asleep, they won't kill us. And we wished ourselves in streets again, or anywhere, and would have been faint to be living under a dyke.
Next morning we had our breakfast, and woman gave us a lovely cake as well, and that's as big as a penny down now, to eat as we went. And she set us up to top at House of Correction Hill. It was freezing again, and the road was terrible slate. So we got on very badly. And if we were come to Stairway, and that's not but a long bit of way, we fell hungry and began on our kayaks. Then we said we'd walk so far and take a bite. Then walk on and take it again and take another bite. And before we got to Innsbruck, they were gone. Every now and then we sat down and stopped to rest. And we sat down on a carved stair or under the hedge, and there we cuddled ourselves together, taking all the one another's hands to try and warm them. We were very amazed we can't. And when we saw anybody coming, we got up and walked away. But we didn't make money folk. I don't think folk were as much road in them days.
We scruffled on in this fashion, and it was quite dark before we got down to the yacht. Our feet were sere, and were nearly done for, and when we turned round Windermere Water Hill, we blushed so dowly that we were fairly hard rotten, and were sat down on a carved stair, and were crying. But when we'd had our belly full of crying, we got up and felt better. Just a minute. For it, and so we went on again. Sly enough, you may be sure, but we were on roads we Kent now, and when I got back here, I knowed every spot where we rusted, for they let them lie by lawns. They don't see me chalkers good roads for what they were. At the Clappers Gate, folk were manners if it hadn't been dark, and they ought to do us there, and they'd give us relief if we'd begged there. But we began to be flaked as my mother and father would be angry at us for running away.
It was 2 o'clock in the morning when we got to our Aunt Dewey Lango. I called out, Father, Father, Mother, Mother, over and over again. She heard us and said, that's our Betty's voice. There was no but fancies. Lick still, said my father. But she wasn't. So she got up, come down and up and do it. And there we standing doddering. And dazed we come, and as near dead as makes no matter. When she saw us, she was mere flaking away with her. She burst out crying, and we cried, and my father cried. And they didn't flight us at all. They said no to us for running away. They wanted a bit of it, and my father said, you'll never come back there again.
Folks at Dent never missed us till next day, because they thought we'd been kept in at dinner time to finish with tasks. But when they come, and we didn't come here, they set off after us to Kendal, and the mud had gone past Scotch gins when we were there. How they satisfied themselves, I know not, but they supposed we'd gone here, and so they went back. My father wasn't long in we were sure of finding out woman at Kendal that had been so good to us, and my mother put her down a pot of butter and made her a live cheese and sent her it. Well, when Betty said that our dialect, it's, you know, it's not like yours, well, I don't think it's so far off, really, because I have a daughter, and she went away when she was 11 to school, then she went to Durham at university, then she went to London, and one day, when she was having a dinner, a posh dinner somewhere, a man next to her said, how far from the western border were you born? Now, I thought that was, he must have, you know, he said he was a very good musician, so he must have had a very good ear, you know, for a voice. So, I think we do speak a lot like you, really. Now, I'm going to portray a character from a play written by Kim Lyon, Carlisle, and it's old Peg, a curer. Our bread off good North Country stock, nuts so far free here, and I learned herbs from my mother. Knowledge had been in her family for generations, and it's been a good thing for me, you know. I don't know how ever I'd have managed without it. Not that I was grumbling and twining about it, because it's been my own doing. Our firstborn to a typical Dale's farming family, an unwanted daughter. Next band that came along was Mitchell Langford's son there. What the thought he was wonderful. They thought he was that wonderful. Sun must have shone out of his backside. But me, well, I wasn't so when it first dawned on me that I wasn't wanted. But my mother was Yance, for a kind. It were my hands. They were all swelled up with frostbite and chilblains, and they were covered with good gaping pins bleeding, and she made some special salve for your herbs to rub into them, to ease them, and harden them up a bit. By the time I reached maturity, that was when I was about 6, I was hard at market fields from daylight till dark. And by the time I was 16, well, I was sore. I'd had enough, and I ran away with a lad. He was second son of a neighbouring farmer, and by God, he was handsome, and he was sexed like a ram. I can remember yet, my blood used a fair tingle whenever I thought about him. And the heart beat faster whenever I saw him. He was tall, and he was blonde, like his Nordic forebears. And he was strong, and he was proud, and by God, I did love him. We ran away to Liverpool, and he got work on Liverpool-Manchester Railroad. We were happy. And then I found out I was with Barn. But he was that suited, and he was fussed about looking after me. But Bobby was born dead at 7 months, and I never knew why. And then we were that sad. He moved on then to Boxwood Embankment. Said he'd forget sharper or something like that. But that's what he did. And they sent for her to have a look at his body. But he was all mangled up. I hardly kent him. I haven't bawled about Mitch in my life, I'll tell you, but by I bawled then, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know I could manage. I knew in half thing though I couldn't go back here. That door would be shut in my face. And then I remembered, well, I had my herbs, and I could cure. So I started following gangers around curing. And I cured wounds, nasty stinking wounds they were. They'd had them for ages, full of yellow pus. I cured them with comfrey, wheels with crusaders, you know. Next of all it was Barn. Oh, stood about, backs up, hacking and coughing and thrown up at the same time. Open cough. I cured that with colt's foot and grun ivy. And if there's a bit of a cough left, well, I give a deer of a mouse. I never told him what it was. Oh, I was soon doing far away. Well, making enough brass to keep myself and put a bit away and go. But by, I did miss my man. Me body fair ached for him. It's like another fella that were on London Birmingham Railroad, and he was all right and all. Good, strong, strapping fella he was, and he had an idle piano in his body. Always suited young and fine, and moved on together. onto Dutton Viaduct, and then through there onto Barnthrop Tunnel, and then onto Leeds Thirsk Railroad. But that's where they were killed, along with 23 others. But it was different this time. I think I must have eaten hardens somehow, because I just seemed to take it in my stride. And I kept on with my curing, and I cured all day, needless we made their fur. And terrible bad and skitters, why shine she now? And some folk call it diarrhea, you know. And I cured that with blackberry, Alexia Vitae. That's what it's known as in trade. Well, I think that was best do I ever had, because it was that smittle. Everybody had it, and when I didn't cure, they were at it again. And to tell you God's honest truth, I was making that much brass. I was sorry when the diddle started trying to Well, but best infusion lot was made for Lily at Valley. Men and women travelled from far in for it. They called it the celestial portion, and it would just about cure out. Well, after that, I went to try me innocent. Holy Jesus, the horrors that I saw there. But I made a lot of brass, curing, outside. I made a lot of use of elder. It was wood that cross was meant for hanging out, and soldiers got a lot of comfort for that. It were also true that Judas carried on his cellar, and he would tell them all about that. Oh, aye, elder, it has magical and mystical properties, all right. It can kill as well as it can cure. Don't ever pick berries, will you, without saying a prayer, and never ever make a cruddle of wood which will devour babby. When it was over, I come back to England, and I took up with a soldier, and we went to work together on Crystal Palace Dam. And in 1853, when I was 25, I miscarried his babby. It was the ugliest live bit of a thing you ever saw in your life. It was covered the air like a monkey, and it mewed like a cat. It was a 7-month baby, and I thought it was going to live forever. It never lived a few hours, but them few hours to me seemed like years. I told you before, I hadn't cried much in my lifetime, bald, and I hadn't spent much time praying either. But I started to pray then, and I never give over. And when they said it had died, I thanked him up there. I thanked him for listening to you and for taking it. But after that, I wasn't so good, I'll tell you. Everything seemed dark and black. I was dead to me tether, and I were on my arm. Well, me fella, well, right? Well, they both cleared up. Gone and left me. Men. I said to myself then, I said, well, Peg, I said, let this be a lesson, I said. Never sleep with another fella. Sleep with yourself, do it out. That would pattern my life after that. That and foreign gangs are in Canada. But I made a lot of money. Oh, aye. A lot of money. Because they all knew when they come to you, man, that when they are favours, for I said to cross hands, it was a little. And now, here I is, back in my native Yorkshire. Sometimes never thought would be. To be back. And then I come back, I smushed myself a bit, you know, getting some fresh clears. Everybody does this that leaves the house like I did and then goes back because they want folks to see it and say, oh, they must have been done well. They must have made a lot of brass. They've been successful, haven't they? Oh, I've even had a wish. Goodness, oh. Oh, I'm being cold. Well, and now, as I said, here I is back in my native Yorkshire. Curing on settled Carlisle Railroad, within spitting distance of where I was born. You all know, don't you, how strong the animal instinct is for tears that fell short. Well, it's sick like for us that's been born and bred alongside them. I've found that out for myself. Then I come back. It's just been to me like finding a little bit of heaven you down here on earth. So when this job's done, hasn't it moving on near me, I've got to buy a little cot and retire. And folks will say, when, have you seen her? Hey, by gum, she must have done well. She must have had a lot of brass. By gum. And I'm just taking a long hard look at myself, and I had done well. I done well, all right. I've ploughed a long furrow, but it's been a straight one. And I've known all the country. I've known all the country as all Yorkshire Pen.